Last Minute Podcast, episode 128 with Dan, Greg, and Matt, which forms the dream team of Last Minute Podcast because Cam's not here.
Who's 28? Who's number 28? We're the Centennial who this week?
Not Claude Giroux.
We're the Centennial Claude Giroux, and Cam's not here.
Who's number 28 in the NHL Top 100?
No, like number 28, like player number.
Oh.
Centennial. It's the Centennial version of their show.
I don't want to know. No, there's got to be someone else better than Claude Giroux.
Patrice Cormier?
28. I'm just going to look it up.
I don't know.
Oh, they can hear all this smashing because Cam's not here. Our normal awful production isn't here, so we have a microphone that just picks up everything instead. So it's just going to be as bad, if not worse, than normal.
I'm nervous because you a month ago were like super sick and you missed, and now Cam's super sick and he missed it. So
you're going to miss next.
The odds are I'm screwed.
I'm just going to become a regular all of a sudden.
Probably.
That's why it's a dream.
Every week someone will be gone.
Yeah. Okay, let's scroll down to number 28 because we've got other news, but lots of good news to talk about. But
we don't need to talk about the Jets.
I really want to talk about the Jets though, because they're pretty bad. They're pretty bad. Okay, wow. Brian Rafalski.
Ooh.
Steve Larmer, which we would never have watched, but he had 11 seasons in a row. Played 11 game or every game for 11 seasons straight.
Like Iron Man streak?
Iron Man streak.
Oh, that's impressive.
1,012 points in the 1,006 games.
Okay, well he can have the Centennial episode.
He also retired at age 33, so he might have actually been really good. He was also on New York's 1994 Cup winning team. So this is for
Centennial for him.
This is all for Steve Larmer.
Okay.
So let's talk about the Jets. We're going to get into their goaltending situation because that's been a hot topic. Paul Maurice, along with their point production as a team, has been a little less than stellar. Then we'll talk about that insane Pens-Caps game that happened last night. Islanders firing their coach. Minnesota being the best team in the West, shockingly. And then just whatever else we can talk about to fill in this hour along with Patrick's parade. So first of all, let's start with the Jets, as we've got two Jets fans that watch almost every game. So
I'm going to level with you. I've only watched one of these games, and it's because I was there.
Okay, well, let's start with the Habs-Jets game.
Yeah, I was there.
So, 7-4 for the Habs.
Where should I start?
For the Canadians? 7-4.
Oh, my God. Like, they didn't play that bad in the first period, but it seems like every time, like, I mean, as far as I remember, Montreal got two really quick goals that were, one of them I'll give Hellebuck, the other one he should have had. And then the Jets battled back and tied the game, and they had all the momentum, and then, boom, right away Montreal scores again. And it just seemed like that was the game. Every time they tried to get something, there'd be a shot towards their net, and it would go in. There were some, favorable bounces for Montreal in that game. I was there. There was one where the guy just, he fired the puck in the corner, and Toby had the guy tied up, and it literally bounced off Enstrom's skate right out front to Montreal guy, and he just ripped it in. But, I don't know. It was bad.
The last couple of games have been bad.
When you score 4 goals, you should have a chance to win. And they never had a chance to win that game.
Well, let me just recap the last 4 games. Habs 7, Jets 4. Coyotes 4, Jets 3. LA 3, Jets 2. Sharks 5, Jets 2. With my simple math here, that's 19 goals against in the last 4 games, which averages out to just under 5 goals a game they've allowed.
Well, and those 2 goals in San Jose were both in the last 2 minutes, so it seems like a lot closer game on the stats.
Oh, yeah.
It actually was, because it was just...
It's garbage
really
time.
Anything, yeah.
Garbage time, and that's when the Jets seem to want to play.
Classic Scheifele, 2 points in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, you have to keep in mind, too, the Coyotes game, they lost 4-3, but they were down 4-1 in the first period.
Yeah.
To the second worst team in the league. Like, I mean,
you can't be
coming off a game where your coach takes his glasses off midway in the second period and screams at you on national television. Yeah. And that's the game they come back with. And now, granted, I didn't see it, so I don't know if it was the team not playing well or if it was the goaltending.
It was poor...
I don't know.
It was missed assignments.
What, against San Jose?
No, against...
Coyotes game.
The Coyotes game, yeah.
Missed assignments. Guys making just bad reads and bad plays, and then all of a sudden the puck's in our net on like a 2-on-1 breakaway. Hellebuck had no help in that game, and it was not his fault he got pulled, but...
Sometimes
you need a guy to make a save here and there, and he just didn't make that.
He hasn't been that guy this year, though. Like, when they seem to need a save, he hasn't been that guy, and that's what you need. Like, the thing is we'll talk about the goalie situation in a second. I'm going to compare Hellebuck to other goalies in the league, and you'll kind of be surprised who else is right around that save percentage. But the thing is playoff teams just get that type of save when they need it, and the Jets just haven't had it this year. And that's what Pavlik did the year they made the playoffs, was he was just making that one extra save every once in a while.
I don't think it's been all year, though. I think it's been more recently, because at the beginning of the year he was really good, and he was making some good saves, even though we were coming back in games because he wasn't making the saves earlier. When he needed that save in the third period, he was coming up with it.
Do you think do you think we're expecting too much out of him?
Yes.
He's 23 years old, and he played 26 games before this year. And people were expecting him to step in and be a starting goalie with high-end caliber numbers. Maybe we're expecting too much from him.
Well, also, if you look at it, if you compared, before these last two games that he played, if you compared his numbers to Carey Price's numbers in the Carey Price's first two seasons, they were almost identical.
I think Hellebuck's were better.
Hellebuck's were better in the second year and a little bit in .02 worse in the first year.
So he's not doing nearly, I think it looks bad because the goals that beat him are goals that he should have. Like, a lot of the goals he lets in are the ones you say, well, he should have that.
Yeah.
And that's why his numbers don't look terrible, but when you visually see him play, you're worried because he doesn't look like he's confident.
Well, and I want to get to his numbers when we talk about the goalie situation. So they played LA on Saturday, second half of back-to-back, and they seemed to play with LA the whole time.
It was a much better game.
Hutchinson played well. I thought that the team actually seemed to come with a little bit extra jump on Saturday, but they just couldn't finish when it counted. It's tough when only 4 guys on your team score goals. The depth in scoring just has not been there.
No, obviously, yeah.
And
when your best player's not even in the lineup.
Exactly.
In terms of goal scoring,
Well, really, this is a 4 straight games for losses for this team. And what? Laine's been out for 5 or 6 games?
5 games. They won the first one without him.
So they're 1-4 without 1-3-1.
I don't think I don't think he's the reason that they're losing. I think it's defensively that's where their game is killing them. Because they're scoring at least 2 or 3 goals a game, but they're giving up 5 consistently.
Yeah.
And you're not going to win
goals for and 19 against in the last 4 games.
And the problem too is it's not like they're in the game. They get down like 3-0 or 4-0 and then they get a couple back. So it makes it look like it's not as bad as it is, but that Sharks game they were down 4-0 with about 3 minutes to go and they somehow got 2 goals.
Well, that's because Jones tried to empty that and that was and laughed about it after.
But the Coyotes game they were up 1-0 and they were down 4-1 in about 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, this is
the Montreal game. They were down 7-3 at one point, and they 7-4. So, I
don't think they've played a 60-minute game in 2017 yet.
It's frustrating to watch because the first 3 games of the new year were great. Or the first was it Tampa, Florida? Those games were great.
Yeah, I think they.
Then the Buffalo game went off the rails, and the Calgary game was great. They shut them out, and then right back to being a mess. There's no consistent effort from their players, and that's the part that's frustrating. You watch them play, and they can play better, but they don't. And for whatever reason, they can't sort it out. They can't. There's no emotion. There's no intensity. They come out. I feel like they start well, but then a goal goes in or they get a bad call and they're toast. They lose their entire complexion, and it's over. And they need to figure it out because they're more talented than their record shows. I think they're good enough talent-wise to be a playoff team, but if they're going to play like this, they're not. There's not a chance.
Well, if you compare them talent-wise to any team really in the playoffs, I think they're pretty close. Yeah. Like you compare them to like Toronto, like that's a pretty good comparison. Like they're not that far off talent-wise, I don't think.
I think
you can tell me otherwise if you think I'm wrong.
Well, I would personally say the Jets have more talent. They just don't play well.
Yeah.
The Leafs have a younger team, but
only by like a year or something.
Yeah,
it's not a big gap.
I think the Jets have, especially in terms of D, they have more depth.
Yeah. Well, what I was gonna say was,
but Toronto can have this young lineup, and consistently put out. There's effort. Like I haven't watched many Leafs games, but I watched the Centennial Classic, and that third period they just didn't give up. They were down 1-0 and they ended up being up 4-1.
And then collapsed.
They had a little bit of a collapse.
Classic fashion.
But they didn't give up. And, And that's the mentality that the Jets need, and I haven't seen it. It's upsetting because you know that they're capable of, well, at least I think they're capable of more.
Is that coaching?
It could be. Well, you have the best coach in the league, arguably.
Oh, the Leafs,
And
yes.
Babcock.
And
Maybe.
with the Leafs, Mike Babcock has done tremendous things. But I will agree with Dan and say that the Jets' depth at defense is way better than anything the Leafs have. Because Hunwick and Polak would not be on the Jets. And for some reason, they're getting played consistently for the Leafs. I would say that the one thing the Leafs have that the Jets don't is 3 lines that can kill you. Because if you look at every single line, they have a point producer, a trigger guy, and just a grind horse centerman. Whether it's Bozak, Kadri, Matthews. I don't think there's 3 centermen on the Jets that would compete in that sense. I think those 3 centermen are better than any 3 centermen the Jets have.
Well, and face-off still for the Jets. It's like,
Yeah.
Brian Little's very good, but...
Brian Little and Scheifele are 2 very good centers and would be 1-2 on a lot of
No,
teams.
but I'm talking just straight taking face-offs.
Yeah.
Brian Little's very good. Everyone else, even Mark Scheifele,
Lowry's gotten quite
they've gotten better.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's frustrating to
Of
watch
course
them
it's
play.
frustrating.
I don't know if it. I mean, is it time to look at some of these core guys that have been here for 6 years, like Paul Postma? Someone please tell me why he is on the team still.
I don't know. I've been
Is he?
I've been
Do you
questioning
think
that all
he's
year.
an NHL defenseman? I don't.
No.
I don't.
You know
I
what?
think he's a good
he's
7.
He's a 7.
He's a 7.
So-
but
Yeah.
somebody who comes in when your
I
team's
mean-
injured, not somebody that you...
But I'd rather have Melchiori in the lineup right now. Like he's,
So would I.
Anyway, Mark Stewart. Like, I know he didn't play great.
Did you see his hit?
I didn't. I heard it on the radio.
So
I heard he killed Joe Wardlow.
Yeah.
to
But-
respond to their 4-game losing streak, the Jets decided to call up Andrei Pavlik. Andrei Pavlik is a career 907, and he's supposed to come in and help the goalie situation in Winnipeg. Now, here's the thing. Hellebuck right now ranks 32nd among all active, all goalies in the NHL. 32nd. The guys in front of him are shocking. But right now, Hellebuck has a 907 this season. Pavlik's career is 907. I don't really understand this move. I know it's a panic move. I know it's something that they felt they needed to do. But here's some guys that are right around Connor Hellebuck. Antti Niemi, Corey Schneider, Ben Bishop, Ryan Miller, Cam Ward. Now, there's about 0.08 between Cam Ward and Connor Hellebuck, but that's also 6 spots on the list. The guy that sits right underneath Connor Hellebuck right now in save percentage is Henrik Lundqvist. Also on this list, below Connor Hellebuck, is Marc-Andre Fleury, Semyon Varlamov, Jake Allen, Kari Lettinen, Steve Mason, Peter Mrazek, Brian Elliott. All big-name players. None of these guys are
interesting,
backups.
actually. Yeah.
So maybe it's a rarity now to have a goalie at a 9-10 and higher. Because it seems that the best goalies in the league right now, or used to be the best goalies, are below that. And maybe it's a case of the NHL is changing to a higher scoring league.
I don't think it's Hellebuck's numbers that are concerning. It's that
That one
he's
bad
costing
goal every
them
game.
games.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the goals he lets in cost them games, and
Well-
that's where it's a problem. And honestly, bringing in Pavlik, it's not gonna change a single thing. He might come in and he might play. He might win a couple. Like allegedly he's playing tomorrow night.
I'm sure he's gonna come out on fire.
He'll
he's
probably
gonna
come
try
out-
and prove himself so much.
He'll
harder
try
than
and prove
he
himself. But even if say he plays the rest of the year and he stands on his head, do you re-sign him? I don't. Why?
No, and I don't think that's their plan either.
I don't think so. I
think veteran help at goaltending would be nice.
I would have personally liked for them to look outside the organization for help. And I get that, that would mean they'd have 4 or 5 goalies in their organization because they'd have Pavlik, Comrie, Hutchinson, Hellebuck. If they went out and got outside help, they'd have 5 goalies.
don't
Do you
have to
want
just
5
trade
goalies?
Hutchinson with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Probably
Logan
not.
Pollock
But
would probably be the best option.
But it would have been nice for them to look outside their organization. I mean, Bryan Sveinson had that article or that comment about Yaroslav Halak. They could have had him for free.
Yep.
And it's looking like maybe they should have brought him in as a backup. I'm not saying to bring him in as a starter and sit Hellebuck because I don't think you give up on Hellebuck's progression, but bring him in as a veteran backup. Let him have let there be competition. If there's back-to-backs, let Halak have a game. You know, if Halak plays well, let him play a couple games. But I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury could probably be had for the right price. Jimmy Howard, if he wasn't hurt, could probably be had for the right price.
But here's my question: is anybody that's 21 years old right now getting leaned on as much as he has? Like Connor Hellebuyck has played 34 games so far this season. In a 47-game schedule, he's on pace for around 60 this year. That is the most he's ever played.
And he's only played 50, 60 career games in total.
He's played 60 career NHL games. And here's the thing. The most games he ever played in a season was for St. John's back in 2014-15. He played 58 games. He had a .921 and a .258. Decent numbers. And I'm not trying to say he had bad numbers, but the thing is that's playing against AHL level players. You're in the big boy leagues now and you think your first year you're going to be this outstanding player. It doesn't happen that way.
Oh, no.
And I think that our expectations of Connor Hellebuyck are too high. And I think the fact that we're not giving the defense a hard enough time is part of the problem as well.
It's not just the defense; it's the defensive play by.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yes, the defensive schemes that we run in our own zone just aren't good enough. Guys are not being reliable in their own zone, and it's quite. I wouldn't say quite shocking, quite disappointing.
Well, and that's kind of where that's how it's always been in this city. It's always been defensive systems, and our whole team hasn't played well defensively. So is it on Paul Maurice or is it on the assistant coaches that we didn't get rid of? I know Paul Maurice would have brought in different schemes, but whatever input the assistant coaches have, maybe that's what's wrong.
It didn't work, and they changed the coach, and it worked for a bit, and it's still not working. So maybe it's time that they look at the players and say, this group's not going to win. And I'm not saying blow it up completely, but maybe you make a couple big moves. Maybe you get rid of a Bufflin. Maybe you get rid of I don't know, Brian Little. Yeah. Toby Enstrom. Guys that have been here for a long time.
Well, and that's what they were saying on the radio. Are we too used to a losing culture now? From what they had in Atlanta to what we have now. All those guys that have been in Atlanta and through here all those years. Is it just a losing culture and it's just like, well, we're losing, it doesn't matter. So what is it going to be?
I always fought the Atlanta core thing because they're always like, oh, they were the Thrashers. They were terrible for years. Yes, but Andrew Ladd, Dustin Bufflin played there for 1 year. Blake Wheeler played there for 2 months. So the majority of their players, they've been a Winnipeg core. As much as they came from Atlanta, Brian Little, Toby Enstrom, those guys have been there quite a few years. But so I gave them the benefit of the doubt to say, let them see it here. But 6 years later, it's baffling to me that they keep coming back with the same team every year and hoping that there's going to be something different.
Well, that's the thing. You got to change something. I think the first step this franchise took was not re-signing Ladd in the offseason. I think it's time to explore the options of being a team without Blake Wheeler, being a team without Brian Little, being a team without Dustin Bufflin. Just somebody and something about this team needs to change. Because if you look at the roster from 2011 to now, sure, there's a lot of changes in the depth, but the core guys are still the same as they were in 2011. That first game, it's still pretty much the same lineup because Mark Scheifele was in that first game.
Yeah. I will argue
the only differences really that are outstanding players that I don't want to see them get rid of would be Ehlers, Laine, and Josh Morrissey.
And Trouba, I hope they...
And Trouba, sorry.
I would argue with you... I would argue that Blake Wheeler's been their best player this year because he busts his ass every game, no matter how shitty the team is playing. And he's their captain, and that's exactly what you want your captain to do.
Okay, but busting your ass doesn't mean you've been playing good, because I don't think he's been playing great. Like, he's been playing good, but he hasn't been great.
The effort is...
The effort's there for sure.
The effort is there, and with most of the other guys, there's no effort. And to me, I would rather have a guy on my team that's going to bust his ass than a guy that's going to half-ass it around.
So you take Wheeler right now over Scheifele? Because I think Scheifele's dealing with an injury.
Well, I don't think Scheifele's 100% because he's not moving like he was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
But I'm saying under their core, like I wouldn't count Scheifele as part of their veteran core. He's still young.
Yeah.
But I'm talking if you go Enstrom, Wheeler, Little, Bufflin, Stewart, these guys. I mean, if you can keep, basically Wheeler's the only one I would keep.
Yep.
He's your captain. Sure. At some point they have to. I don't know.
Well,
they can't keep there's an expression, and I can't think of it right now, but it's something along the lines of, if you keep if you
The
keep
definition of insanity
is doing the same thing over again and hoping for different results, and that's kind of what it's turned into.
And that's the thing. But like, you look at this team, it has not, like, the top producers have not really changed over the last few years. It's great to see Ehlers there, it's great to see Laine there, but Byfuglien, Wheeler, Scheifele, Little, they're always up there. The problem that I have is once you get past their top 5 scorers, Scheifele, Ehlers, Laine, Wheeler, Byfuglien, you go from a 26-point production, is their top 5 scorers, 26 points, all the way down to 17, which is Brian Little. I'm not trying to say anything bad about Brian Little. He missed 20 games, or 23 games already this year, 17 points in 24 games. I'm not upset with that. That's pretty good point production, if you ask me. Then you have Jacob Trouba, who's also missed time, and he's at 14 points. He's second among defensemen.
Honestly, he's been their best defenseman.
And then it falls off to Adam Lowry, Matthew Perreault, Drew Stafford, Marco Dano, Nick Patan, Sean Mathias, Andrew Kopp. They have not had consistency outside of their top 5 forwards.
No, I agree.
Anywhere. And I think that's what you got to look at. That's one of the things that we talked about when they were, that we thought was really good, was they had strong depth. Drew Stafford should not be on this team anymore.
Well, I think he goes at the trade deadline.
I don't think he should have been on the 4th line because he's been with good players for the last week and a half. And
I understand that.
No, I agree. I think it's time to move on from him.
But it's not even that. It's move some guys just to have room on your roster to bring up the younger players. I think it's time that we see
Lemieux.
Brendan Lemieux. I want to see what's that kid's name?
Lepon, Roslovic.
Well, I'd love to see
Roslovic.
But I mean the other guy.
No, wait. Quentin Howdy.
DeLeo. Chase DeLeo. Thank you.
Yeah, give some guys a shot.
I'd like to see them try to give guys shots. That's what we found out about Joel Armia last year. That's what we found out that he could be a good player on this team.
Yeah.
And
they've given a lot of young guys a lot of shots this year, though, and it's not working. So people better be prepared that if they're gonna go even younger, it's very likely gonna be
more of the same.
The same. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. These guys have to play. I think for Nick Patan, this has been great for him this year.
Yeah.
Because he's been on the team most of the year. Mm-hmm. He's on the 4th line, but he's still playing.
I would like to see the record with the Jets when Tyler Myers is in the lineup versus when he's not, because I think he's a big part of this defense. It's definitely not.
Can you imagine what that defense would look like if he was there and Ben Sherratt was not injured right now? Because Ben Sherratt's a good defenseman, and Tyler Myers is a great defenseman. He's a top 4
Interesting
guy.
argument,
He's
though.
6th pairing.
If you're the Jets, come expansion draft time, would you leave Myers unprotected?
No.
But think about how injury prone he's been the last 2 years.
If I'm Las Vegas and I'm seeing
they would
Myers is there?
They would definitely take him. You would probably lose him, but
I still think they're going to try to find some way to get rid of Toby Enstrom by the end of the year.
I think it's a smart move because then they can protect 7 forwards.
Yep, and I agree.
And then they don't lose Matthew Perreault like everyone seems to think that's the guy that's going to go.
But I wouldn't mind them losing Matthew Perreault because he hasn't been that type player this year that he was.
This has been his worst year.
This has been his worst year, but his first 3 years or first 2 years were pretty solid.
So here's just a couple things, and I don't know how much you guys like advanced stats, but a few things.
The Jets are 2-0 when wrestlers are at their games. Does that count?
Brandon Tanev,
Chris Jericho, they won. Brock Lesnar,
Joel Armia, and Nick Patan all have shooting percentages under 5%, which is just not sustainable. That is, I talked about earlier this year how, Laine had an obscenely high shooting percentage, and, Matthews didn't. But these are obscenely low percentages. If these fall closer to the mean, which is around that 9 to 11% mark, that's probably 2 or 3 goals per player more. Yeah. Which, you're not looking so bad at that point. But I'm sorry, the fact that Nick Patan's played 26 games, has 29 shots, needs to shoot the puck more. That's what that comes down to.
He's never been a shooter.
4th line, though, limited ice time.
I understand that.
So, because you know how much Paul Maurice likes playing his 4th line. He doesn't.
Well, when you look at how much he does, on the power play, he never shoots. He's just feeding people tremendously.
But that's all I'm saying is that I think right now there are some guys on this team with obscenely low shooting percentages. Defenseman taken out of it, obviously. Trouba's one of those guys as well. Byfuglien's one of those guys. Perreault's one of those guys. If these shooting percentages fall closer to that mean, this might mean a few more goals for them. And that's where the discrepancy might happen. But I think a lot of their issues right now come inside that defensive game. They're really just not producing well defensively. And that's part of the problem.
Yeah, no, it's, I don't know.
Well, you got to think of how deflating it is every time you let in a goal. Like the ones that Hellebuck have been letting in. Like,
oh, yeah.
Eventually you got to you just get tired of letting in bad goals.
The only two guys on our team right now that have I'm just looking at face-off percentage. The only two guys over 50% right now are Matthew Perreault and Brian Little. Mm-hmm. Perreault's 51.6, Brian Little's 56.26. So part of probably Brian Little's point production is they're throwing him out there for a lot of the defensive zone face-offs. And when that happens, you just don't get the potential in the offensive zone.
Well, and that's a big problem, too, that I'm starting to notice, is they don't win a lot of face-offs, so they never have the puck.
Yeah, well,
they
can't score if you don't have the puck.
The Jets also, this is a good point that I heard, and I never thought about it this way before, but the Jets, I don't know if it was it might have been the game yesterday, they out-hit San Jose by a good margin,
yeah.
But somebody said they out-hit them, which meant they were chasing the puck a lot because they had to hit guys.
That's very true.
I never thought about it that way.
That's a smart way to think about it.
You know, the hit stats look good, but does that mean that they're chasing the puck the whole time? You know?
But it seems that whenever they try to gain any zone protection, any zone, it dies. Like, they don't keep the puck in the zone. Their down low cycle game just hasn't been there. Like, that was one of the things that made them so exciting to watch in that playoff run a couple years ago, was the fact that every time that puck got into the opponent's end, they seemed to grind it out and at least get a scoring chance out of it. Now it just seems a lot of blown air whenever they get the puck in the other team's zone.
They won a lot of games with heart that year. And this year, that heart is not there this year.
There's no heart.
And it's obvious.
Yep.
You know.
You also have a different set of skills now. You don't have
Yes.
the grinding, the
Yes.
Evander Kanes, I know Evander Kane wasn't there for the playoff run, but all throughout that year.
And Andrew Ladd, guys like that. Yeah.
Stepniak's a good grinder. Toulouse was good in the corners. Like, you have a team that has a lot more skill that can do more with the puck than those guys ever could.
But they should, yeah. Like, I just think there's a fire and there's intensity that's just not there, and it needs to be there.
So that's got to come down to coaching.
Well, maybe it's the coach. Maybe
it's leadership.
Maybe it's
intangibles.
You know what? It's new leadership this year in the team.
Can we get fucking rid of Chris Thorburn? Can we make that a thing?
He'll be gone.
Like, it's not that I don't like Chris Thorburn. It's I think that
that's my problem. They keep bringing these guys back over and Paul Postma, Toby Enstrom.
Wow, that wasn't really. They needed to sign him.
Well, I know, but
it'd be nice if they could find
Chris Thorburn and.
I'm sure they could talk Arizona into trying to take Toby Enstrom because they seem to want to take every bad contract in the league. But
even if
he's playing, so it's hard for them to take a contract because they just take everybody who's not playing.
But even if you keep playing bad though, like,
I'm not saying he is. I'm saying
and he's a left-handed shot. We have one good left-handed shot.
I just think at some point people need to stop looking at this team saying, "Oh, but he's playing okay," and then you just say, "You know what? He's been here for 6 years. He needs to go."
Yeah, and I think
he's been here for 6 years, and we haven't been a good team for 6 years. I'm not saying it's his fault, but you have to look at those guys and say, it doesn't matter how well they're playing. Sometimes you have to just make a move.
I very much agree with that.
I mean, personally.
I agree with you. I think it's time for us to stop saying, oh, it's fine, they're young, or, oh, it's fine, he's just doing all right, he's in a slow part of his season. That's a loser's mentality. That's, they're not great right now, but they'll be better. It's not the mentality you need to win. You need to be your best every single night. And it's not good enough when you're playing in the best league in the world if you don't bring your best. And right now, wherever it is, they're just not performing their best. And even Craig Button came out and said a lot of the issues are on Maurice right now. This is on Maurice.
I don't think he should be fired personally. Right now, I don't.
That's fair.
But, I mean, if things don't change, they're going to have to do something.
And you can't fire 26 players.
No, it's much easier to fire one guy. But at the same time, if you fire him, who's going to be your coach?
Exactly.
That's the exact point I was going to bring up.
You know,
there's no one else out there right now.
Yeah,
You're going to bring in Jack Capuano?
Yeah.
No.
Which we'll get to in a second. But,
so.
Yeah. Let's move on because we can be down in the dumps about the Jets and their poor play for a long time. So let's move on to something more exciting. The Penguins-Capitals game last night that featured 15 goals, I believe, And
Did Pittsburgh not get 6 in the second period?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was 3-0, and then all of a sudden it was 5-3, and then 6-4, I believe, or something like that. It was insane. And, it was something else. And that snapped the Caps' 9-game win streak. And before that, I think the Caps recently outscored their opponents 11-0 going in that game, their last 2 games. They won 6-0 and 5-0. And then they were up 3-0. So they were outscoring their opponents 14-0 before the Penguins scored their first goal of this game.
That's just crazy.
And then all of a
Second
sudden
period.
it's...
How do you get 9 goals in 2 periods in the NHL? It doesn't make sense to me. That's crazy.
8-7 final, right? No, 9-8.
Is it
8-7 final?
Yeah, because there's 15 goals.
Yeah, 15 goals.
8 goals and
And, it was,
I don't get it.
and it was overtime, eh?
Yeah, it went...
The shades of that Winnipeg, was it Winnipeg-Philly
Philly,
game that was
yeah.
9-8? Well, you know what? Right now, there's a Dallas-New York game right now that's 7-6 in the third period. So.
And scoring's down, guys.
Scoring's down, eh?
Let's take away the goalie's padding. Let's make the nets bigger. Scoring's down. It's a boring game, guys. No one scores. Boring game.
well, this year's been an anomaly.
I think this is the way, but this is the first year that we've seen the integration of more and more rookies in the NHL. The faster kind of mindset, and it seems that defense is kind of being more loosey-goosey this year.
Well, that's without a doubt.
But if you look at
you know
most
what, quite
teams, like,
honestly,
it's not...
I like it when defense is terrible.
But
I don't like it when the Jets play defensively terribly because it sucks because it pisses me off. But hockey is more fun to watch when it's high scoring. Personally,
Well, and that's why junior hockey, and that's one of the big things that the World Juniors does so well, is there's not a lot of systems, so there's not a lot of control, so players just kind of go everywhere, and it creates awesome moments and opportunities that are crazy. Like that Jordan Eberle goal with like 5 seconds left against Russia would never happen in the NHL because the defensive systems would don't break down that badly like that. It just doesn't happen
Well,
that
what was
often.
that other one? The
Unless-
Canada-Russia gold medal game where it was, I think Jaden Schwartz was the captain of the team that year. And it was like 5-2, and then it was 5-all, and then it was 6-5, and it was 6-all. It was like the craziest game.
And like,
Because no one plays defense.
but it's 8-7. This is the kind of hockey that I want to watch. It was
Oh,
interesting
yeah.
because it seemed every time you looked at the TV, another goal was scored, and you're like, holy fuck, actually. Can this stop?
Well, I had
Against-
hockey that day, and I went to the rink, and I didn't think anything of like the game. I think it was like 5-4 or 6-4, whatever it was. I get to the rink, it's 7-6, and I'm like, what the hell happened?
And the other thing is, both these teams are so good that didn't matter if a team took a 2-point or a two goal lead. Everyone's like, well, they're good enough to score. they're good enough to get back in this game.
the scary thing was Braden Holtby was one of the goalies in this game.
And Murray.
That's the scary thing.
Well, Murray, they didn't even take him out. They didn't pull him. He played the whole game,
Actually,
letting in 7
he's
goals.
the first goalie since I believe he's the first goalie since 1994 to let in 7 goals and actually win the game.
There was a stat.
Because that doesn't happen. Because that
No, it
just
doesn't
doesn't
happen
happen anymore.
Well, most teams now, they have like a 6-goal rule where if you let in 6, no matter what the score is, they'll yank you.
Yeah.
Jamie McLennan was saying that on That's Hockey a couple.
I can't
months
remember
ago.
the stat, but it was either 7-goal games or 8-goal games, and there's only 2 teams to have scored. I think it was 8 goals and lose that game. It was either 8 goals or 7 goals. There was only 2 instances where a team scored that many goals and lost. Both of them are the Philadelphia Flyers.
Matt Murray is the first goalie since 1994 to give up 7 goals but play the full game and earn the win.
Wow.
Yep.
Congrats, Matt Murray. Setting records.
That's a record.
Tying records. And this game was and it snapped the Caps 9-game win streak, and people were like, they're going to be good again.
I mean, but every team has
Except for the Jets.
Wow. Jets keep up 9. That's no problem.
What's the Jets win streak this year at? What's our
They
highest
haven't
win
won more
streak?
than 2 games this year.
Okay.
They've won 2
That's
in
a
a row.
problem.
They've won 2 in a row 8 times, and they have lost the third game 8 times.
That's not good.
So they've been close to a streak 8 times. They've only won more than 3 games once in the last 2 years.
That's brutal.
There's
wasn't that the last 4 games?
There's the last 4 games of the year last year when they were out of the playoffs. Their record in the last 2 years when going for their third straight win is 1-16-2 or something.
That's brutal.
So
And you got other teams like the Blue Jackets that can just go on 16-game win streaks.
while we're on the Jets too, I just totally forgot. I do want to. Could you imagine if Burmistrov scores a goal on Pavlik tomorrow night?
It's happening. You know
What
it's
will
happening.
happen?
I won't
It's
even be
hockey
mad.
gods.
The
It's
old
hockey
Jets.
gods.
The old Jets. Burmistrov will score against Andre Pavlik.
Yeah.
Yes, that's. Can you imagine if that
And
happens?
Toby Enstrom's going to get traded before the game happens, so then Enstrom to Burmy, goal on Pavlik.
I'm just saying, like, if that happens...
It's actually buckle yourselves in. It's going to be a hat trick for Burmy tomorrow.
Oh, my God.
Because that's what's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Can they cut the whole team after the game?
Yes.
Like, that'll happen. Whew.
Well, a team that decided not to cut their whole team and fire the coach instead was the New York Islanders, firing Jack Capuano, and they move assistant GM Doug Waite into the head coach position.
You know you're getting old when guys you watch play hockey as a kid are now coaching.
You mean Patrick Waugh?
Oh, that was the first one, but this is another one. I read it and I'm like, what?
No, this is the funniest part.
But,
is Doug Waite used to be the mentor to John Tavares. Now he's coaching John Tavares.
They just want Johnny T to stay. That's all.
They're trying to keep him there.
Well, they're not doing a good job in the stands to
No.
do that.
No. They're definitely making some of those decisions.
How do you get rid of Okposo and bring in...
How do you get rid of Matt Molson? They've gotten rid of every winger that he's played with. It's like, 30 goals for you. Trade him! Let's trade him! Because they have idiots working in the front office. Everyone's like, well, it was Mike Milbury's fault. No! Everybody who touches the Islanders franchise since the 80s fucks it up!
Wow.
I think that's the first time someone sweared so far this
No, it's
podcast.
been good.
Matt Molson,
That was
gone.
about a half an hour.
It,
Must be Camp's fault that there's always so much swearing.
I always get mad at him. It's just flyer bias, I
they
swear.
had Matt Molson, gone. They had Thomas Vanek, gone. They had Franz Nielsen, gone. Who else do they have?
Kyle Okposo.
Kyle Okposo, gone.
Matt Martin.
Matt Evil.
They have a third-line all-star, Casey Zizekas.
Yep.
He's not an all-star, but
Isn't he
they
like
just
fourth liner,
don't
fifth
make
liner?
good decisions. They just don't.
That's not a well-managed... Just look at the building they're playing in.
Okay, well, let's also... I don't, like, you can talk about the history of terrible things they've done, like Alexei Yashin and Rick DiPietro. Like, I think Alexei Yashin's last year on the books was this year, or it was last year.
I'm pretty sure it's this year. This is last year.
On the books.
On the books.
What about DiPietro?
DiPietro's there for like another 10 years or something.
10 years.
Did you guys talk about the fact that they're not going to have third jerseys next year?
Yeah.
Thank God. There's not those stupid black and white Islander jerseys anymore.
This is true. This is
First time I saw them, I thought it was Tampa playing. Like, I didn't even realize that it was the Islanders. And I'm watching them like, wait, is that Tavares? It's not Stamkos?
It was dumb.
What's going on?
Also, the Jets should wear their heritage jerseys as their roads next year.
They won't.
They
should.
should.
They won't.
They won't, but they should.
It would be cool. I'm just going to go to the Islanders for a second here. But one thing other that we wanted to do today, but unfortunately we weren't able to get a hold of him, was we wanted to talk to Jim Benning and offer him a trade. But he's not here. So unfortunately...
He's dodging us.
He is. He's dodging our phone calls. Part of that might be because he got drunk last time he was on the podcast. Didn't like the way that... Yeah, his kind of
He's embarrassed
image...
for the
Well,
first
his
time in his
image
life.
went.
Is he ever not drunk?
It's a good question. But our offer was going to be, we'll give you Brian Little, and you can give us Bo Horvat. Same amount of letters, same amount of syllables, same amount of vowels. You
And
don't
they're-
have to pay any extra money.
And H and L are like 3 letters away.
Exactly. The other thing, too, is, like, throw in Jake Virtanen. The amount of money you're going to save by putting Little on Virtanen jerseys is astronomical, because Virtanen's a long word, Little's not. It's easy. Simple.
It's little.
Okay. Holy fuck. DiPietro's on the books for another 5 years. This year and 4 more.
Jeez.
They, who are their goalies? Sebastian Kohlberg? Oh, no, that's not a goalie.
Don't they have
Thomas
Grice?
Grice and Jean-Francois Berube.
Yeah.
Well, at least when you thought the Jets goaltending couldn't get any worse.
I don't see Alexei Yashin on here anymore, so he's not.
No, I think he was done
with last year?
Last year.
Okay, well, they are also paying Cal Clutterbuck. I think his cap hit is 2.75. That's a lot. Josh Bailey, 3.3. Casey Zizekas, 3.35. Anders Lee, 3.75. Kuhlman, 5.1 or 4.188, which isn't actually that bad. Mikhail Grabowski, $5 million, which really isn't that bad.
Well, I don't think he's even playing though. I'm pretty
No,
sure
he's hurt right now.
concussed, isn't he?
Yeah. And then you got Andrew Ladd making $5.5 million.
How many points does Ladd have?
Unviable contract.
Oh, God.
I'm gonna do
it's-
the Ladd point. I haven't looked at it in a while. Let's see.
He's gotten a couple points lately.
got a few.
Like, they just don't have much. Like, I'm looking at their roster. It is bleak. Like, I think their
Bleak.
best opportunity is Ryan Strome.
Well, you have Ryan Strome, you have
Like, their
Barzal
defense
coming
is
in there
okay.
eventually.
Their defense is all right. Johnny Boychuk, Nick Leddy, Travis Hamonic, Thomas Hickey, Calvin DeHaan, Dennis Seidenberg. That's a good top six.
There's a lot of like Team Canada World Junior alumni there.
Yeah, that's basically they're all Canadian except for Seidenberg.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're all Canadian, regardless. They're
Maybe not
fucking...
Nick Leddy. I'm not sure about Nick Leddy.
Nick Leddy can be an honorary Canadian for this podcast. They're a joke.
Ooh.
They're an absolute joke.
Lads up to 12 points in 41 games.
That's almost as many points as...
What was he demanding too when he was here? $6.5 million he was demanding for 6
Perot,
years.
Perot and Lowry both have more points than him. Drew Stafford's on his way. Toby Enstrom's on his way. Marco Dano, Nick Patan. And they're not making $6 million.
All those guys
They're 5.5.
combined make as much as Lad does.
And the worst part about that contract is they'll never be able to buy him out.
They can't.
No, it's unbuyable.
It's an awful
They're
contract.
stuck with them.
They're stuck with him. And, like, obviously, we're not trying to say mean things about Andrew Ladd. It's not that we don't like him. We didn't mind him when
I
he's
never
here.
liked him.
He's just not worth that
Oh,
money.
I liked him. He was good.
Hey, at $4 million, he was
He
great.
couldn't receive a pass. He
No,
never
he-
received a
he had a good
pass.
So
The
are
only
they
time he
going
received a pass would have bounced off the
He
boards
did some
off his
things.
stick and came back to him.
He
So-
did some things.
Are the Islanders bad because of coaching or because of player personnel?
I honestly thought they had a good coach, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think so too. I think
But
Capuano was actually not
He
that
was
bad
there
of a
for a
coach.
long time.
Part of the problem too is that like
I think management screwed that
I
team
think
over.
fuck. Well, we just went over it. I think they are.
Yeah, I
Some
don't.
pretty bad contracts there. That's for sure.
I don't think it's the players' fault. I think the players are doing all they can. I don't think management has given them the right.
They're trying to do anything to keep John Tavares there. Like he's only making $5.5 million right now.
That's going to be interesting to see if he leaves.
Where's he going? Toronto.
Yeah, get the media train rolling.
If Toronto got him, they're taught like they would find a place for Bozak. Like Bozak wouldn't be on the team anymore. Their top three centers are Kadri, Tavares, and fucking.
Well,
Matthews.
you know that if they
That's a cup in 4 years.
You know that if
That's
the
a cup
media
year
hears he's
Tavares.
available, that they're just gonna they're gonna do what they did with Stamkos. They convinced Steven Stamkos that he wanted to go to Toronto.
Yeah. Well, they have a year
Almost.
left.
They almost did.
They have a year left to really decide what their plan is. But here's the thing. Everybody except for one player that is currently on the New York Islanders forward lines is with the team next year. And that is Steven Gionta.
He's not with the team next year.
Not with the team next year. Everyone else is signed into next year.
That's a big loss. Shit.
And then they will also lose, or Calvin DeHaan's available. Dennis Seidenberg's a UFA, and Adam Pellich are their other guys, and they'll need to find a goalie other than Halak.
They're gonna
Because
be
Grice
hurt.
is a UFA and Berube is an RFA.
Berube.
That actually might be interesting because they'll expose Andrew Ladd in that draft.
He's got a no movement clause.
Fuck, they're fucked.
They have to.
Oh my god, that's
They have to.
hilarious.
They have to.
Ah, who signs that deal?
Garceau because he's an idiot.
He got hit in the head way too many times. That must have been it.
Oh,
He's fucking
He
stupid.
was dropped as a baby.
Ah,
he was dropped. He was dropped as an
here's
adult.
more money than you deserve and a no movement clause because we're smart. Fuck. It might come the day though where the Jets are in the position to maybe win a cup. It'll be like, I'll waive my no trade clause. The Islanders will absorb all but like $1 million of the deal.
And we'll get
That's
it
to be
back.
50%.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll accept 50%. We'll take the other. We'll have enough room in the cap, and he'll come and he'll help win us a cup. There you go. Win the Jets a cup.
That's
Wishful
okay.
thinking.
Where's
Then he
where's
can
gonna
redeem
help
himself.
the fourth line?
Exactly. Hey, at least there he'll be making $2.75 a year, and he'll be worth the money he's making. So Minnesota's first in the West. How did that fucking happen?
Devin Dubnyk.
The number one goalie in the league, Devin Dubnyk. Aren't the Oilers
Who would've-
kicking themselves?
No, because he would have never done it there.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm surprised Cam Talbot did it there because I still don't think they're good defensively.
Not good defensively. But is this a surprise? This Minnesota being first in the West.
I certainly think so. I didn't have them pegged this high up. I had them pegged in a wild card spot, like fighting with us for a wild card spot. But what the fuck do I know? Because look where Winnipeg is. But everyone else I was pretty good on.
Yeah, they are. The Jets are a questionable team, that's for sure. But yeah, Minnesota is just Scoring by committee, I think, too. Like, they're
Eric
just,
Stahl is having a great year.
He's got like 39 points in 42 games.
yeah, it's crazy.
Like, what the hell's going on?
Rejuvenation.
Eric Stahl.
Change of scenery.
Yeah.
Sometimes
And they're paying
works.
him like,
He had a change of scenery.
and they're paying him like 1.5 mil or something stupid.
No, I think it's 3.5.
3.5.
Still.
3.5.
It's a lot less.
Yeah.
It's about half of what he was
He's
making
got
in
more
Carolina.
points already than most 3.5 guys get like in 2 years.
He's got way more points than Casey Zizekas.
Oh yeah.
Way more points. And he's like, this is what I'm talking about. Good management versus bad management. Bruce Boudreau knows how to coach a team to regular season success.
You're going to put
Playoffs.
an emphasis on that regular season success.
Regular season success.
You know what's going to happen because it's happened like 4 years in a row. They'll play Chicago in the playoffs and they'll lose a very close series.
7 games.
And they'll lose.
4 of them go into overtime.
Or that game last year when the Dallas, they were down 5-0 and going to the third period and they scored 4 goals and they scored a 5th
that's
but
right.
they didn't count it.
Yeah. My favorite will also be the moment where Scott Darling comes into the series and everyone's like, huh, well, that's 2 wins automatically for Chicago, because there's that point every year that Chicago's like, well, Corey Crawford isn't very good this time, so we'll put in Scott Darling.
Corey Crawford is like the Andre Pavlik who's successful.
Thank you.
He's not that good, but he's won a couple Stanley Cups.
He's Chris
He's also
Osgood.
not that bad.
He's the new Chris Osgood who
He's
wins.
not that bad, but I wouldn't pick him as my first choice if I was starting a team.
Well, no, me neither, but I don't...
I wouldn't pick him as my second choice either for my backup.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
So,
Where did we go with this? So St. Louis
totally off track.
jersey was retired by the Tampa Bay Lightning on Friday night, and I watched this ceremony, and it was beautiful. Now, I'm not a huge Tampa Bay Lightning fan, and obviously I was cheering against them when they played against the Calgary Flames back in 2004 when they won the Cup. But you can't help but, like, be happy for the guys who were on that team, like Dave Anderchuk and Martin St. Louis, Vincent LeCavalier,
Brad Richards.
Mr.
Conn Smythe.
fucking Dwayne Rollison.
No, Nicky
No,
Happy Boy.
Nicky Happy Boy.
Happy
That's who
Boy.
I meant, yeah. But then you look at the teams that went after that. Like 2009, I cheered for them then. Cheered for them in 2015 when they lost in the finals again.
Do you remember how hideous their jerseys were the year they won the Stanley Cup?
Yeah.
Man, they wore those for the ceremony. I'm like,
Oh.
I was almost
They
like
haven't
they should wear
aged
those.
well. Let's put it this way. They haven't aged well.
They should bring those back as a retro jersey.
Ugh.
Everything has its, like, there's a moment where you can bring anything back. Like the Islanders jersey with the Islander on it.
The Stevie Wonder one that's like black and gray and orange and green.
The 19 different color Islander jersey.
I call it the Stevie Wonder because that's probably who picked those colors.
You can bring any jersey back if you give it enough time. Think of the Phoenix Coyotes' first jerseys. We look at those now and we're like, yeah, we want more of that.
Yeah.
That's true, and those are
Those are
Those are
hideous,
hideous.
but they're great.
Exactly.
they're good in small doses.
Exactly.
They're good when you don't see them for 20 years.
Once every 20 years, you're allowed one thing. It's like the Disney vault. You throw things in the vault and you can't pull them out for 20 years.
Or the Islander thirds that they used to have that had like the actual Islander guy.
That's
on
what
it.
I'm,
They
that's
were,
what I'm
like,
talking
teal
about.
and- oh,
Yeah. That's the one I'm
Those
talking
were
about.
hideous.
Yeah. They should bring those back.
The black Calgary Flames ones with like the skull on fire. Ugh.
But nonetheless, during this retirement ceremony, there was a lot of people that spoke, a lot of people there, and it made me think. Martin St. Louis is one of those guys that I remember watching growing up. And now there's more and more guys like that. Now you see Doug Waite moving into a coaching position. You have Joe Sakic in a management position. Joe Nieuwendyk used to be in a management position. The guys that we grew up watching are now leaving the game of hockey. And it makes me want to watch guys who I remember entering the league and every last minute they have. Like a guy like Alex Ovechkin, I want to watch pretty much the next 10 years of him because he could maybe break the goals record.
You think?
As far off of it as it is, if he scores 40 goals for the next 10 seasons, yeah.
Ovechkin?
Yeah.
10 seasons.
10 seasons, 40 goals.
How old is he? He's 30.
31. And he turns 32 in
So you
September.
want him to score 40 goals when he's 41.
Yes. Scores it.
He'll still be playing when he's 40. Why? Hey, you know what? Most,
I'm saying
Most
an
Russians go back to
average.
the
most
KHL.
Russians are back in Russia by then.
I'm saying on average.
So he's just going to have a year where he gets 70 goals and then he can coast that.
Why
last
not?
year.
I'm saying it's possible.
Okay, well, Patrick Laine was on
Okay,
pace
30
for-
goals. 30 goals in the next 10 seasons. If he gets 300 goals, I think he's second all time.
I think Patrick Laine's on
300
pace for
goals.
like he was on pace for like 42 this year. So if he scores 42 goals for the next 23 years until he's 41, he'll probably have the most goals ever.
Thanks, Dan. Fuck you.
And he'll be 42 goals ahead of Austin Matthews because he's a year younger, so he can play a year longer.
Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. They're both on pace for ridiculous number. If either of them hits 30 goals this year, I think that in itself is a...
I'd be surprised if they both didn't get 30 goals.
They'll both
depending on
easily
when
get
Laine
30.
comes back.
Yeah.
If Laine comes back,
they should easily both hit 30 goals.
I know. But do you guys feel the same now? Like, you see these guys that you remember watching growing up moving into management positions or just retiring for that matter. Does it make you want to watch guys that are currently in the NHL more?
I never watched hockey back then. I didn't really start watching hockey till after the lockout season. So
see, you started watching hockey because you're like, I'm going to pick the team that got the first overall pick. Oh my God, Sidney Crosby's the best player. Fuck you.
That is pretty much how it went.
Fuck you.
I never started watching hockey though, so it's not my fault. I got to pick a team because I didn't have a team in my own city, so I got to pick whoever I wanted. Dad didn't have a favorite team, so I didn't really have a...
2000, well, okay, the first year I watched hockey, like, where I followed, like, the whole league was probably, like, 04. But I watched the Thrashers since year one. I like their jerseys.
I can't say I've been watching the Leafs since year one, but I can definitely tell you I've never seen them win past... I've never seen them in a fucking Stanley Cup final, that's for sure.
I've seen them be close. They were in the conference final, 02?
Yeah.
They lost to Carolina?
Yep.
Guess who coached Carolina?
Yep. Guess who's their goalie? Fucking Artur Zerbe.
Hey, he was good. The Jofa helmet.
It still hurts me. 14 years, almost 15 years later.
That still hurts you.
They were so close!
I was
11! These things cut deep, man. I'm not over Boston yet, and that was in 2013.
See, that makes sense. That was 4 years ago. The Carolina game?
They had a chance, man! They could have been there!
Do you know how young Paul Maurice was when that?
Do you know how mad I am about 93 and I was 2 years fucking old and I don't even think I watched
You get mad about things you weren't even alive for.
Exactly.
I wasn't born yet.
Things I'm disappointed about. But regardless, I can rant about the Leafs all day long. It's easy to do. There's clearly something wrong with the NHL and the way they do their point system. You have about 20,
Why is that, Greg?
22 teams right now who have a point percentage over 50%.
And I mean team-wise.
The way that we reward teams for losing in shootouts, giving them an extra point, is it time to either go to the 3-point system or just abolish the loser point altogether?
I say abolish the loser point.
And just go straight up record. And the thing was...
Or do you go points percentage?
Or do you go points percentage? But in that case, are you taking... what I'm saying is, will you take out...
Well, I guess you'd have to count OT as a loss, and...
That's it.
Yeah.
Just straight up, essentially...
The NBA does it that way.
I know the NBA does it that way. So does NFL.
Yeah.
There's no other league that rewards loser points. The whole loser point started because they awarded a point if you lost in a tie game, like in an overtime game, back when there were ties. It's the same way in the IIHF. They have it there as well. But is it time that we just go, okay, you've played 47 games, you have 25 wins and 22 losses?
Are you guys okay, though? Are you okay with having no loser point if shootouts are still a factor? Because to me, a shootout is not indicative of a game. A team can be hanging by the skin of their teeth and make it to a shootout and have a better shootout lineup and win the game.
But here's the problem.
And for that team that played so well, they get nothing.
But here's the issue with that is, if you're a team and you're saying, okay, if we lose in overtime, we don't get a point. But if we make it to shootout, we get a point. You're going to figure out a way. Even though it's 3-on-3, you're going to maybe play a little bit harder to get that extra point in the shootout than try to go for 2. Because you're like, we have a really good team for a shootout. So you either say no shootouts and overtime, or you go 3-2-1, 3 points for a win, 2 points for an overtime win, and 1 point for an overtime loss, which is the other option.
That's kind of like
soccer.
Doesn't the World Juniors do it that way too?
Maybe the World Juniors does it that way.
They switched to that.
Yeah, I think the IIHF finally switched to that, which is something that maybe the NHL should look at, because right now, and the other thing that we have to talk about too is the NHL is one of the only leagues, along with the NBA, that has more teams in the playoff, like more than half the teams make the playoffs. Right?
I like the 16-team playoffs.
So do I. I'm not saying anything bad about that. But would you be okay with a team who's 40-42 making the playoffs, being considered a playoff team?
No.
And that's where the problem is. Because if a team is 40-32-10, we don't look at that team as a bad team. That's a 90-point team.
Yeah, true.
But they're realistically 40-42.
They're below 500, yeah.
They're below 500.
And I've thought that for a long time because
So is it time that we look at this differently?
Maybe go to the 3-2-1.
3-2-1
would probably be the best option.
Yeah, because yesterday I did kind of before the Jets game was over, I did just see if the standings really changed that much. I think Minnesota would be the top. No, kind of the top 5 didn't really change that much. It seemed the most movement was only like a couple parts in the standings.
remember
like nothing really moved around too much.
But I'm pretty. Was it?
It doesn't change that much because your wins are still valued really highly.
The first year the Jets came back, I think Florida won the Southeast, and they had like 21 overtime losses.
Yeah. Well, you look at the
It was
Leafs right now. The Leafs have like 10.
Yeah.
9 or 10.
Like the Panthers had like 38 wins and like 21 overtime losses, but they won their division.
You know?
That by that 21 extra points.
Yeah.
Like it was.
Was that also the year they only had 39 points? That was their highest point getter?
No, that was
the year after?
That was a couple years after.
Okay.
Maybe
Yeah,
they go, yeah, but maybe, if you win in regulation, you get 3 points. Maybe if you win in overtime or a shootout, you get 2.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe that's the way to go.
I think it would make teams fight for that point regulation more
absolutely.
than just, okay, let's just get it to overtime, then everyone gets a point.
That's fair.
Or you win in regulation, you get 3. You win in overtime, you get 2, the other team gets 1. You win in a shootout, you get 1, the other team gets nothing.
Yeah, that's
The farther it goes, the points go down.
I like that, actually.
That could be interesting. That's different. So you're saying 3 points regulation win, 0 points regulation loss.
Yeah, 2 points
2 for 1,
and then 1 for O.
1 for OT loss, and then 1 for shootout win, 0 for
Shootout
shot
loss.
loss.
Yep.
I think it would.
That's going to discourage teams from going to the shootout.
Yeah,
I think.
it does,
Personally.
and that would.
You'd almost be better to pull your fucking goalie. If you don't think you can win a shootout, just pull your goalie because you
Just-
get that 1 point either
Just
way.
take the loss. That's true too.
Take the 1 point, yeah.
You're not doing well in shootouts that you're just,
So then,
And then-
basically, what you'd have is you have a column for wins, you'd have a column for losses, a column for OTLs, column for OT wins, and then your losses. Okay, so
Yeah.
you'd still only have 4 columns.
Yeah.
Or you could have like shootout win, shootout. Yeah, because you'd have to have shootout wins as a column.
It'd be
It would get-
confusing.
I don't know if the simplicity of the NHL website would be able to do that. Like the website's so garbage that I don't know if you can even fit
We
that
have
many.
the 42, 28, 13, 6, and 2 Washington Capitals.
I think this. I think it's genius. I think we do it.
Maybe. There's potential. I don't know.
I
I don't want to have to be the one to figure it out. I don't want to do the math.
I think the NHL should pay us because we just figured out a problem that they clearly have.
Boom.
There's a hole in our system. I found it already.
What is it?
The overtime, the shootout loss.
No, it's not a hole. We just need to add an extra column for it.
No, but if you get a point for losing in overtime and no point for losing in the shootout, just take the point because one of you
Who cares?
gets 1.
That's fine.
That's actually true because then you're if you go to
Fine.
if
Then
you go to the shootout, you're only getting
you get 2 points for the shootout win and no points for the shootout loss.
or just do it
In the last face-off, you go into you do rock paper scissors. Yes, we win. Give us the point.
Or we abolish shootouts altogether.
Yeah, but then games. Well, you know what? With 3-on-3, you could just have
10
a 20
minutes. 20 minutes. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. Yeah, you're right.
I wanted to make an analogy, but it's not the time or place. Not the time.
It's not PG.
It definitely wasn't going to be PG, that's for sure.
Non-PG.
Not PG. Whew. Okay, moving on. Teemu Selanne and Joe Sakic were named to the IHF Hall of Fame. So that was a cool honor for them, obviously, I'm sure. Shane Doan apparently would be okay with the trade from the Arizona Coyotes.
Does that mean it's his last season?
Last season, probably.
Yeah.
And the last thing we'll
gotta
talk
think
about
so.
quickly is the All-Star jerseys, as we're almost over time here. What do you guys think of them?
I didn't think they were terrible. I like the fact that they have 4 jerseys instead of just 2 like they did last year.
And I like how they base them on, because the All-Star game is in Los Angeles this year, so they're iterations of the different Kings jerseys throughout the year.
Yep.
That's
cool.
that.
I like the purple one.
I like that.
I like the
If you're going to
purple.
have
So
it
they-
somewhere, have it, have them themed. I mean, if they have it in Columbus, they're screwed because they only have 2 jerseys. But
Yeah, so right now they
I
have
like
a
it
black jersey, a white jersey, a purple jersey, and a gold jersey.
yes,
Those are the colors they have. And
I
each
like
of them represents a different conference.
I like them.
However, I don't like them. But that's just me. I don't know. Just something about them. It is
I
what
don't
it
see
is.
what's wrong with them.
They're just
They're
really
very
plain.
Well, yeah, they're very
They're
simple.
It's better than last year where they're like, oh, we have 2 jerseys. You're either wearing white or dark.
That was boring.
That was dumb.
And then the numbers were yellow to
I mean,
signify
at the end of the
Nashville.
day, the All-Star game to me is I could care less, quite
Yeah,
frankly.
exactly.
So,
So
I
do
mean,
So do
it
I.
is what it is.
Which is fair.
They've proven to me that it's not a who's the best player in the league that year. It's a
Who represents your team?
but they pick based on the namesake.
Yeah, they
Well,
do.
you look at this year.
You look at Jonathan Taves getting names. He's 136 in league scoring.
Yeah.
But he goes because he's Jonathan Taves.
Exactly.
I heard something on, I think it was TSN, that they're doing something with revealing the top 100 players,
Yeah.
the rest of the list, at the All-Star game.
Yeah.
So it's just simpler to have Taves there because people
Oh,
assume
okay.
he's going to be on there.
Top 100 players, like
Yeah.
what, like all time?
All time.
Yeah, all time. I don't know. He's won 3 cups.
I wouldn't argue
He's been
it.
pretty fucking good.
I wouldn't argue with it.
No.
Him and Kopitar, I think, would be in that list for sure. I would think.
Kopitar?
Dude, he's won 2 cups. He wins a Selke. Was it Selke that he wins? Which trophy does he
Selke.
win? It's
The
Selke.
Yeah, I guess.
He's
I think
good.
he won the Lady Byng 1 year too.
He's not.
He's quietly
He hasn't
very
been
good.
that good this year, but he's been
He's
good.
quietly.
Well, he's
very good.
usually on pace for like 70 to 80 points every
Yeah,
year. And
yeah,
he
he's just.
shuts down other teams' top lines. So
Yeah, he's just good.
I don't know if you
Exactly.
guys talked about this. This is because we're talking about all-time records, but I believe Blake Wheeler, and this is going.
Fuck the Jets.
This is like original Winnipeg Jets
Of course. it is.
records. He's already the 5th leading scorer in Winnipeg
Oh, that's cool.
Jets. So, and by the end of the year, he'll probably be the 3rd highest. So that's not Thrashers. That's Winnipeg Jets records.
who's he
So that's
going after?
Arizona Coyote
Howard?
records.
I think Howard Chuck's first.
But Shane Doan's first.
No.
Fuck shit.
Oh, or maybe Shane. Yeah, he must be then.
Because he's Arizona Coyote / Winnipeg Jets.
That's true.
I'm
He
being
wouldn't be
I'm
in
being a
Winnipeg,
troll.
though.
I'm
Yeah.
being
I'm just
troll.
saying it's sad that a guy plays for a
Someone's got to
franchise
be a
for.
troll. Cam's not here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sad that a guy plays for a franchise for 5 years and he's already in the top 5 all-time scorers.
Well, the thing was, the old Jets couldn't keep players for long periods of time.
Well, and that's true,
They would
too.
get
Yeah.
good talent like Dale Howardchuck and Phil Housley, and we saw the talent there. Even Teemu Slaney, great
the
talent.
talent just
Didn't
wasn't here for
have
him.
him for that long.
Well, that's because we were moving. That's why he left.
Yes, I know that.
That's the only reason.
Patrick's parade tab. So bottom 5 teams in the league as of
Patties.
earlier today: the Jets in 26th, the Sabres in 27th, the Islanders in 28th, the Coyotes in 29th, and the Avalanche in 30th.
Say the Jets win. You going with the forward or the defenseman there? Because I'm pretty sure they're pretty even.
No,
If they
the
win
top
the
2
draft
guys
lottery.
are the top 2 guys are forwards.
One's the defenseman.
I thought Liljegren's a forward.
Liljegren's a defenseman.
Oh, then you go Liljegren.
Yeah.
I think you go Liljegren. As good as Nolan Patrick could that's a tough thing.
See, the thing
He would
is
love
if-
to play. Yeah, it's Winnipeg. You're gonna pick the hometown guy. You're not gonna pass up the opportunity saying, "Oh well, we don't want Nolan Patrick." You're picking the hometown guy, regardless.
Well, in that way, you could almost get rid of Little because Nolan Patrick could develop into that second line center. too.
Exactly.
And then that kind of.
Yeah, he's not gonna be this like savior.
No.
He'll be a solid depth second line.
So you've
player.
assumed the Jets are finishing dead last.
No, I'm
No,
just
I'm
assuming.
saying if
we're
we
saying
win.
if they win.
Hypothetically, if they
Hypothetically,
win.
yeah. Guys,
2 years in a row.
Edmonton will make the playoffs, get ousted in the second round, and still get the first pick. It's gonna happen.
Bill Daly shows that thing, and the Edmonton Oilers. Everyone's like, "What the fuck? How?" Regardless.
Yep.
That's
Because they
all
need
we
more
have today.
centerman. They need a fourth line, first overall centerman.
I'm calling it right now. Vegas is winning the draft lottery. I know they only get the 3rd best odds, but that's gonna be rigged. They're winning the draft lottery.
Nolan Patrick would be like, "Fuck, I can't even drink there for 3 years. I can gamble, but I can't drink."
Yeah.
Okay, closing words, guys. Let's wish Cam he gets better.
I hope he feels better.
Hope he cures the 2
Although
ear
if I
infections.
cheered for the Flyers, I'd probably be sick to my stomach too.
Well, his throat hurts from yelling so much at his goalies to save pucks.
Yep.
Does he make it? No,
I know the
don't.
feeling.
His ears hurt from I don't know what he does. I don't know what he did. I don't know how he got hurt. But Cam, if you're
Cam
listening,
doesn't go outside. How did he get ear infection?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Cameron, get better because we need you here. Even though this is the dream team.
You need to get better because when Roman Reigns wins the title, if you're in this condition, you're not going to make it.
Exactly. Okay, guys, thank you very much for listening. Thanks to Matt for coming to join us today on a guest appearance.
Thanks for having me.
Third straight week?
Roughly.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
If you want to know more about the podcast, check us out on Twitter at LastManNPC. If you want to email the show, lastmaninpodcast@gmail.com is how you reach us. Check us out on YouTube if you're listening on Google Play at Last Man In Podcast. If you want to see us, you want to get the podcast on the go, check it out on Google Play Stores, iTunes. Just type in Last Man In Podcast, and that's where we are. And hope to see you guys next week, where we plan to do even worse of a job.